तन में बसे हैं राम,
मेरे मन में बसे हैं राम, मेरे तन में बसे हैं राम,
मेरे मन में बसे हैं राम, मेरे तन में बसे हैं राम,
मेरे मन में बसे हैं राम, मेरे तन में बसे हैं राम।
सीता राम सीता राम सीता राम, राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम, बोलो राम बोलो राम बोलो राम, बोलो राम जपो राम गाओ राम,
बोलो राम बोलो राम बोलो राम,
बोलो राम जपो राम गाओ राम। सीता राम सीता राम, राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम,
सीता राम सीता राम सीता राम, राजा राम राजा राम राजा राम,
बोलो राम बोलो राम बोलो राम, बोलो राम जपो राम गाओ राम,
बोलो राम बोलो राम बोलो राम, जपो राम गाओ राम।
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद
राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद,
राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद राम कृष्ण गोविंद, राम कृष्ण गोविंद।
सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
Shantihi.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha Apadamapahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yadkripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Paramanandamadhavam. So over the past 2 days we have seen that Rama is speaking to Vibhishan on the battlefield, where Vibhishan has asked, how will you fight this war? Ravan has so much weaponry, so many warriors, and we have monkeys and bears, and you have absolutely no shield, no footwear, no chariot. How are you going to win this war? And so Rama comforts him and calls him Sakha and says, listen, my friend, this is the Dharma Maya Ratha that I have. This is the chariot of success, the chariot of Dharma that I have. And this is what it is made of. And so we had the wheels, which were courage and patience, perseverance, with the flags of truth and good conduct. Then we had the horses of strength, discernment, management of senses, and concern for others. I like how everyone has remembered this one, concern for others. And these horses are kept in check by the ropes of forgiveness, compassion, and equanimity of mind. And who is holding these ropes? Who is? Devotion to the Lord, to the higher. And within this chariot, we have to have weapons, right? Because we're fighting a war. Who are our enemies in this situation? Attachment, desires, greed. So, how do we fight against them? With the shield of Vairagya and the sword of contentment. And so there are more weapons. And so as a child, when I was watching the Ramayana, I used to be fascinated by the fighting scenes because Ramanand Sagar's time, they didn't have CGI. So you would literally see the arrow somehow come and they'd somehow meet in the middle and somehow there's this big flash of light and then they both disappear. And you're like, but who won? Like whose arrow actually won? They both have disappeared. But the excitement that it would create with the backing track and everything. So there's more. I used to wait. I used to be like, what next? What weapon is going to come next? It can't just be arrows. And suddenly you'll have the trishul flying, you'll have the axe flying, you'll have a spear flying. And they always meet in the middle somehow. They're very good aim. Don't know how that worked, but I guess he took creative liberty. And so we see that Virati Charma, Santosha Kripana. These are some of the close contact weapons that we use. And another one that's used is the parashu, the axe. And so, what is this parashu that Bhagwan is talking about? And he says, Dana parasu buddhi shakti prachanda bara vijnana kathina ko danda. The acts of charity, of giving. And so, when we find joy in giving, in sharing what we have, whether it's our talent, our time, our money, our knowledge, sometimes we share, but how often do we do it willingly, happily, joyfully? Even at work, often we have to split our time between projects and between meetings and between the ridiculous requests of our coworkers sometimes who you just think you should know this by now, it's your job. But still we have to share. So if we can learn how to do that joyfully in the context of all the other beautiful values we have learned, with courage, with kindness, with truth, with strength of mind, all of these support the use of this acts of charity, of giving. And so sometimes we can't do it in the moment. We can't do it just there and then. But even mentally, giving in charity gives us so much clarity and purity of mind. In the Bhagavatam, it's described that when Sri Krishna was born, he was born in the jail. And so Vasudeva and Devaki literally had chains on them. They couldn't move. And Vasudeva, being obviously being a father for after a while now, even though he has had 7 children with Devaki, this 8th child, he knows that this child is Bhagwan who's come to save everybody from Kamsa. And so in his own mind, he gives away thousands and thousands of cows immediately. He sees Bhagwan in front of him as a baby, and in his mind he thinks, I'm giving away all of these cows in charity. And when Krishna comes back much later and frees them, one of the first things he does is he actually gives away those cows in charity, the real physical cows. So he had given it away mentally, but he remembered that he had to actually do it. So those two things are so important, that yes, we may have the attitude of charity, but we should also follow through with it. And what happens is, what you share, we've heard this so many times. What you share will come back to you in many ways and in many folds, in greater measure, I guess you would say. But there's so much joy that we can find in giving and in sharing. And once we find that, then it's hard for someone to take that away from us. And so, exercise. Try and give 5 compliments to someone, anyone, 5 different people. They can be strangers, they can be people you know, doesn't matter. Think of one nice thing you can say to them and actually go and say it to them. Many times we have chats with our friends or with our family and we think, oh, this person's so sweet, this person's so nice, this person makes this dish really well, or this person does flower decorations very nicely. But do we go and say it to them? Often we don't. But how nice it would be if we could actually express our appreciation of who they are to them directly. We like it when we get compliments, no? Yes or no?
Yeah.
If our boss says you did this really well, or our parents say good job, we feel nice. So sharing that joy that we experience can be a great way for us to cut our sense of ego, cut our sense of attachment and holding on to what we think is nice and good for us and sharing it with others. And what happens when we share is it comes back to us in ways we would never have imagined. And so in the Mahabharata, there's a story that's told at Yudhishthira's sacrifice, that what happens is, the sacrifice is over, and so prasad has been distributed. prasad has been distributed. And often around the Havan Kund, you'll have all these leftover rice grains and barley and herbs that are just sitting around. So in comes a mongoose. And this is a very interesting mongoose because he has only half of his body that looks like a normal mongoose, and the other half is gold, like pure gold. So this mongoose comes, rolls around, and loudly announces, "This sacrifice is not a real sacrifice," and is about to leave. When the guests stop the mongoose and say, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Let me tell you how I got this half golden body." Many years ago, there was a poor Brahmana family, and they lived very simply, but there came a time in their village where there was a drought. And so food was very scarce, hardly available. And one day a guest comes into their home, and he's very hungry. He hasn't eaten in a few days, and he's a traveler. So this Brahmana, his wife, his son, and his daughter-in-law all live together. And they, without a second thought, welcome this guest into their home. And they say, "Please come, have a meal with us, rest, and then you can carry on tomorrow." Now at home, they don't have much food. This Brahmana has gone around looking for food, and he's come back with only 2 handfuls of grain. And so he goes in and he tells his family, he says, "Listen, there's a guest, we have to feed the guest. So what we do is give my share of the grain to the guest." So they all sit down for their meal. The Brahmana hands over his share, and the guest very quickly eats all of it. And he sees his guest is not satisfied. So he thinks, "What can I do? I can't deprive my family of their food." His wife comes and pulls him aside and says, give my share as well." And he thinks, "Oh, God has blessed me with such a beautiful wife, wonderful wife. She's helping me serve." So he gives her share as well. Before he can even ask if there's anything else he can do, this man has inhaled the food because he's so hungry, poor thing. And he sees that, there's this look of hunger still on his face. So then his son comes up and says, "Give my food to him as well." And as soon as the plate is in front of him, the daughter-in-law goes to the father-in-law and says, "I know he's still hungry, give him my share as well." So this man, this guest, has taken all of the food and he's had all of it. And he says, "May the Lord bless you." He rests for the night. The rest of the family has to make do with water. And the guest wakes up and he goes off. Now they're literally dying of hunger because they haven't eaten in so long and they've given away all the food that they had. When they're literally about to faint because of their hunger, they are unable to sustain themselves, a chariot comes, glowing, dazzling, divine chariot, and they look at the person who's in the chariot and they see, "Oh, it's our guest." And they think, "What's going on?" So this guest is actually a Devata. Some stories will say it's Indra. And he says, "You gave, even though it was costing you literally your life. And you gave with such humility and love and care. And for that, you are rewarded with Swarga." And so he takes the whole family and they go to Swarga. So this is the example that the mongoose is giving. Don't forget the mongoose. The mongoose is now rolling around in different yagnas, trying to turn his body fully golden. Why? Because in that home, when the Brahmana had given away the food, this mongoose had come. He saw the grains, he rolled around in the grains, and half his body turned gold. And since then, he's been roaming around trying to turn his full body gold. And so, through this story, the greatness of charity is given to us in the Mahabharata. Nobody will tell you charity is good. They'll give you a full kathan and you kind of have to figure it out. So I've spoon fed you this story. Please don't forget it. So we've seen that there's so many ways in which that we can protect ourselves from attachment, greed, and desires. And these are close contact weapons, the sword, the shield, the axe. But sometimes you want to see something, you want to be able to prepare yourself for something long term. If I can see the problem from afar, I'll nip it in the bud. We like to deal with the problem before it becomes a problem. And so for this, Bhagavan says, Buddhi Shakti Prachanda. This Shakti is considered a missile. Some would call it a spear, but many different versions of different Puranas and stories will give you a different idea of what that means. But essentially, it's something that's thrown from the hand and it strikes the target that's far away. So with foresight, I can deal with my attachment, I can deal with the desire, I can deal with the greed. And so this powerful missile is what? Buddhi, my understanding. Attachment, greed, desire, where do they all live? In my own mind. So if my mind can be so strong and clear that it nips the problem in the bud, wouldn't it be great? So how do I do that? With understanding. This understanding, this buddhi, means I have the capacity to know my own thoughts. I have the capacity to see my thought patterns and change them. It's important that we acknowledge a problem, but it's important that we also see that we do something about the problem. How many times do we face something and we think, oh, I see the problem, but it's okay, something will happen. God will bless me. I'll do this puja, I'll go on this yatra, and then magically my problem will disappear. I mean, wherever you go, that same mind that created the problem is going to follow you. You sit in the puja, you go on the yatra, that same mind only has to be there. So, that buddhi is the powerful missile that can change our life and can nip the problem in the bud. So, desires, memories, all these mental agitations that we have for some reason or no reason sometimes. We just wake up and we're like, why am I feeling so anxious? Sometimes it just happens. That inability to be with my thoughts, to be with myself, that is a lack of buddhi. So cultivating buddhi is a way for us to overcome these enemies outside and inside. So how do we do that? Gurudev's first dose is introspection. So for those of you that have been coming for a long time, you might have heard this said 100 times. Introspect daily, detect diligently, negate ruthlessly, substitute wisely, and grow steadily. What does that mean? If I spend 5 minutes a day just going through my day, observing my thoughts, observing what happened, how I reacted to things, how I responded to situations, I can detect where I can improve. I can detect where my thinking was faulty. Then I can negate that faulty thinking. I can negate that poor behavior and substitute it with a much better way of thinking, a much better way of acting. And in this way, I can grow steadily. So far we've seen 2 exercises. First one was giving compliments and giving them freely, but practicing by giving 5 a day. And it can be to anyone. And the next exercise was daily introspection. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. But sit with yourself, close your eyes, allow yourself to go through the day and observe. Sometimes it can be helpful to literally put pen to paper and write if there's a point. But doing this regularly is key. So once we have gone through this buddhi and we've cultivated a good sense of intellect and we've cultivated a good sense of ability to see my thought process and where I'm going wrong and correcting it, then I am ready for Bharavigyana Kathina Kodanda. I'm ready for the big guns. I'm ready for the big bow of self-knowledge. So when we come to the ashram, this is the first thing that we actually gain. Knowledge of who I am. On every level. when I have clarity of who I am at the level of body, mind, emotion, intellect, and truly, in truth, who am I, that bow becomes the most powerful launching pad for me to change my life and lead me into success. If we don't know where we're going in our career or we don't know where we're going in our education, how can we achieve success? I may start with a science background and I jump to an arts degree, then I jump to a business degree. Next thing you know, I've landed up nowhere. Why? Because I had no clear sense of self in this moment. What do I want? Where do my talents lie? What are my abilities that I can tap into? Having that clarity of self on transactional level also, very important. So this comes to us when we're able to connect what we hear in class, in satsang, what we read from books, to what we're observing in ourselves, in our introspection, in our reflection. So Bhagwan is so smart. I mean, I don't need to say that out loud, but just to highlight how smart he actually is. Everything he has said feeds into the other. That how can I suddenly jump into knowledge of self when I haven't introspected a little bit? How can I introspect when I haven't gone through the process of cleaning up my act on many levels by cutting what I don't need and protecting myself from unnecessary desires and attachments? So once we have this bow, what do we need? What do we launch from a bow? Very easy answer. Arrows. And what do the arrows hold? I mean, sorry, what holds the arrows?
Quiver.
The quiver. So Bhagwan is also very detail orientated. He says, Amala Achala, oh sorry, wrong G. Amala Achala Manatrona Samana Samajama Niyama Sili Mukhanana Kavacha Abheda Vipra Guru Puja Ehi Sama Vijaya Upayana Duja. Amala Achala Mana Trona Samana. That what holds these arrows that we can use to destroy our enemies external, well, not externally, actually, it's all very internal. I don't know why I keep saying external. But for Ramji, it's very external. He has to kind of like knock those heads off that. So Amala Achala Mana Drona Samana, that a pure, steady mind is what can hold the various arrows that we use to overcome our attachments, desires, greed. There are many other vices that we can go into, but we're here to focus on the solution, not the problem. I think problem we live in so much we already kind of know it. So I don't need to go into too many details. So Amala Achala Manasroda Samana. And when the mind is pure and steady, then it can hold the arrows. So what are the arrows? Samajama Niyama. So these are many, many arrows. Many, many beautiful things that we can use to clean, purify ourselves and get ourselves ready for success. And so the first one is sama, which is mastery of the mind. And so it sounds a bit like samatha, equanimity. Remember the rope? But here it's a little bit subtler because it means that we have the ability to identify and change thought patterns. And this comes when we introspect. Dhamma, the mastery of the senses, can be a little bit superficial sometimes, where I may resist eating something, I may resist watching something, I may resist listening to something. But internally, my mind is saying, oh, I really want that. One bite's not going to hurt. One movie is not going to hurt. One more episode is not going to hurt. But that means I don't have sama. But when I have sama, it means I can immediately say, no, because I already know that this is not in line with what I want. This is not going to lead me to success. This is not going to help me achieve my goal. And I can immediately shut that thought down. So that ability to do so is sama. And that can happen only when the mind is calm and steady. Then we have yama and niyama. So those of you who are familiar with yoga will have heard this before. That yama is the 5 internal disciplines and niyama is the 5 external disciplines. So these are a sense of non-violence, following a sense of truthfulness, having an attitude of not taking or not stealing, having an attitude of not hoarding. So again, connected to charity. And intelligent self-control. I'm giving you the English words, but if you want, I'll give you Sanskrit word also. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharya. So these words some of you may be familiar with, but what I said in English is basically the same. And Niyama. These are our daily practices, 5 external disciplines that we should have. And so they are cleanliness, both internal and external. Practice of contentment. Again, the sword, remember? Contentment. Self-discipline. Surrender to the divine. Who was our charioteer? Isa Vajanasarathi Sujana. And Swadhyaya, also known as daily study. So Bhagavan also is giving us lots of helpful tips for us to overcome our attachments, greed, and desires. And you know, when I was thinking about this today, that there's so many arrows, right? And so in the Ramayana itself, Bhagavan is shooting arrow after arrow after arrow after arrow, and Ravana's heads just keep going off and coming back, off, coming back, off, coming back, until he gets to the Navi, the center of it, where Ravan has this Amrit Kalash, the thing that keeps him alive essentially. And during a chick camp, they had put on a skit of this whole scene of Ram and Ravan fighting, and they had like all of the monkeys and the bears, and then they had all the Rakshasas. And so in that penultimate moment where Rama shoots the final arrow, they I don't know how they did it, it was really funny. It was really cool. They went into slow motion. So literally you see Ravan like and Ram is like, and the best part for me, this was the key. They had one person be the arrow holder. So they held the arrow from the bow. In slow motion, they've carried the arrow so it hits directly at Ravana's navel. And as soon as it hits, then everything goes back into normal mode. And so Ravana is like, oh, and he falls down and he dies. And the monkeys all jump up and down and they're so happy. And so I always remember when I hear this line, this Sili Mukhanana, the arrows, I remember that scene and I always giggle to myself. But anyways, back to the main point. All of our efforts essentially stem from the mind. Bhagavan is giving us a lot of detail, but if we think about it, it's all within our own mind. If I have clarity of who I am, if I have purity of mind, if I have all of these various disciplines that I observe, it all is within my own mind, and it's all to purify my own mind. Why? What am I purifying my mind of? I've said this like 7 times already, so you should know this. Desires, greed, attachment. And so all our efforts stem from the mind. I say mind only because we think mind is here, but that's not really what it is. Mind is everywhere. And so an impure vessel can spoil even the purest of milk. So even though I may have all these disciplines, all this mental strength, if there is no purity of mind, it's all going to go to waste. And we see this all the time. Every time an asura does tapas and creates hangama in the world, poor Bhagwan Vishnu or Shivji, they have to come and clean up the mess. And so we see Hiranyakashipu, the way he did tapas, like we can't even imagine. He stood on one foot, he stood on one toe with his hands upraised, and he held his breath, only chanting the mantra of Brahmaji in his mind. And when Brahmaji comes, he comes and he's a little worried because he's like, no one has ever done this before. And he blesses Hiranyakashipu and he says, you've done something amazing, And I can tell you, nobody's ever going to do this again. So you can wear that crown on your head if you like. But ultimately, what happened to Hiranyakashipu? Completely ripped apart by Bhagwan. So when Bhagwan came as Narasimha Avatar, tore him apart, literally. Why? No purity of mind. So this is so important that in many ways Bhagwan is telling us. And finally, a warrior has to be aware because danger can come from any side. From the front, from the back, from the left, from the right, we don't know. And so what do you need to protect yourself from all sides? Armor. So this kavacha. Kavacha abheda vipra gura puja ehi sama vijaya upayana duja. That this kavacha is worship, devotion, respect towards the guru and the learned people. And so what do we mean when we say puja? Who here has attended a puja at the ashram? So you all have seen Om Shri Ramadutaya Namaha, Om Shri Jagadishwaraya Namaha. Is that what Bhagwan is talking about when he says Vipra Guru Puja? Yes or no? No. You don't know. I like that answer. Don't know. I should have some job also. So puja here doesn't mean just the ritual of it. Puja as a ritual, as a sadhana is very important. We mustn't underestimate the power of physical offering. But here it refers to an attitude of offering, an attitude of devotion, an attitude of surrender. Not just to one thing or one person, but to the learned people in our life, to the gurus in our life. Why is it so important? Because the guru doesn't have anything to gain from us. They have nothing to take from us, really speaking. They only want to give us. And they give so freely, so lovingly, that for a person who has a little bit of sensitivity, your heart will melt if you think about it. Like what did we do, really speaking, to deserve Gurudev coming, setting up ashram here, giving us a platform to learn, to study, to serve? It's so hard to imagine. And I think for people like me who've never met Gurudev physically, you wonder how did this happen? And every time we think about it, it should fill us with a little bit more reverence. It should fill us with a little bit more gratitude and a little bit more inspiration to serve and do our part. But Bhagwan here specifically says this is our armor. This is what protects us from even the sneak attacks of desires and attachments and greed. They know the truth. They don't need us really for anything. But it's their compassion that they come and they give us this knowledge. And when we have that attitude, how it protects us and how it sets an example for the people around us, Bhagwan himself does. Sri Krishna himself, in the Mahabharata we read, what he chose to do. When Yudhishthira was having his big yajna, Krishna came and everybody in the family was assigned a duty. Duryodhana was assigned the treasury, so he had to take care of all the gifts that came in. Bhima took care of the kitchen and cooking. And Draupadi took care of, all of the other things. So everyone had a duty. But Sri Krishna chose to wash the feet of all of the brahmanas that came to receive donations, all of the sages that came to give their pravachans, all of the purohits that came to do the pujas. He sat at their feet, washed them, massaged their feet, and then sent them off. In the Bhagavatam, when Sudama, Krishna's childhood best friend, comes to visit him after so many years, The description in the Bhagavatam is it's so sweet that Rukmini brings the water for him to wash Sudama's feet with, but he doesn't even touch it because he's so full of love and appreciation that Sudama has come to him that he washes his feet with his tears. This is Vipra Guru Puja. When we can have that love, that attitude of appreciation and gratitude for the learned people in our life, whether it's our parents, our grandparents, or our gurus, or the teachers in our life, in every stage, in every field, having that attitude of humility before them, of love and appreciation for them, this protects us in so many ways. And we listen to so many people, right? We listen to consultants for business advice. We listen to nutritionists for food. We listen to doctors for medical advice. We listen to trainers for exercise advice. Then, when we want peace of mind, we want joy, we want happiness, we want permanent, lasting happiness, why do we hesitate to listen to the wise people in our life? Why do we hesitate to come to satsang? Why do we hesitate to attend a class? Why do we hesitate to heed the advice of the people that love us and want us to be happy? Why hesitate to come here to learn about the root of all our problems and solve it once and for all? Something to think about. And so, in this hyper connected world, we ideally need to connect with ourselves, with the truth. And so, Guruji likes to say this: in the world of 5G, all we need is 2G, God and Guru. And so, with the grace of God and Guru, we have seen this Dharma Ratha, this chariot of success that leads us to success. And so, Bhagavan says, Sakha dharma maya asaratha jake, jeetana kahana katahu riputake. That whoever has this chariot of success, this chariot of dharma, they have no enemies in the world. That we can see this in many ways. Either it helps us overcome all of these enemies. So internally, it helps us overcome our attachments, desires, greed. But externally, just take a second to think about it. If you met a person that has all of these qualities, okay, not all, but at least two of these qualities, would you want to be enemies with them, or would you want them to be your friend?
Friend.
Think. You have a friend who speaks the truth so sweetly. You have a friend who's courageous enough and daring enough and has the patience to see their goal through. You have a friend who's able to forgive, be compassionate, and also not lose their balance in the process. Individual. But aren't they such amazing people? So such a person has no enemies. If we become like this, who will be our enemy? Tell me. There are only friends in that world. And if there are enemies, it's only because they have something against us, not because we have anything against them. So, this chariot, this foundation of success that we can build for ourselves, Bhagwan concludes and he says, Maha Ajaya Samsara Ripu Jeeti Sakai Sobira Jake Asarath Hoi Dridha Sunahu Sakha Mati Dhira. That this most inconquerable, this very, very difficult enemy to overcome, which is attachment to the world. We saw this in the beginning also. Why do I have attachment? Who remembers?
Happiness.
Because I see something and I think it will give me happiness. How often do I see something outside and I think, this will make me happy. When I achieve this, I'll be happy. When I get this thing, I'll be happy. But how long will we live like that? When will we learn to just be happy now? We have to practice. And what are we practicing? Cultivating these virtues. Which virtues? The ones that make up the chariot of dharma, of success. And so who is Rama telling all of this to?
Vibhishan.
Vibhishan. And in this scenario, Vibhishan is representing who?
Us.
Us. So do we appreciate what Bhagavan is saying?
Yes.
I can't.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
no, say something, please. I have to ensure you have not fallen asleep. It's the last day, I know. Yes, we appreciate what Bhagavan is saying.
Yes.
Will we do what he's telling us to do?
Yes.
Will we cultivate these virtues?
Yes.
And so, how can we do that? Oh, I gave you so many exercises. So many exercises to practice, right? And so Vibhishan expresses his gratitude. And also, sorry, another important thing, important to me. Each time Vibhishan has gone to Bhagavan and has said something, he said, Prabhu, Nath, something that indicates he looks up to Bhagavan as someone higher. And whenever Bhagavan has responded, twice in just Vibhishan Gita, he has said, Sakha. So sweet, no? That Bhagavan thinks of us as his friend. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, how many times Krishna uses Arjuna's different names to remind him of different things that he's capable of. You are Parth, you are the son of Kunti, who stood against so many troubles in her life. You are Dhananjay, you've earned so much wealth for your brother. You are Savyasachin, you are ambidextrous, you can do things with both your hands. Whether the bow is in your left or right, you're able to destroy the enemies. So many ways Bhagavan encourages us in so many contexts, at so many places. Suno Sakha. And so Vibhishan responds saying, Suni Prabhu Vachana Vibhishana Harashi Gahe Pad Kanja Ehi Misamohi Upadesehu Rama Kripa Sukha Punja Siyavar Ramachandra
Ki
Ki
Jai.
Pavan Sutta
Hanuman
Hanuman
ki Jai.
उमापति
Pati Mahadev ki Jai.
बोलो
Bolo
भाई
Bhai
सब
Sab
संतन
Santan ki Jai.
श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज
Maharaj
की
ki Jai.
That, oh Lord, you have given me such a beautiful upadesh, guidance, and you are the reservoir of all joy, of all bliss, of all peace. So Vibhishan sees who Ram actually is, who Sri Ram actually is, and appreciates what he has told him. And remember the context of where this Gita is happening. On the battlefield. Ravana is right there. And Ram still has the love in his heart to properly calm Vibhishan down and give him the assurance that no, we are on the side of Dharma and we will win this war. Sometimes, even though we come for satsang or we learn something, it feels so impossible to follow everything. Or it can feel very difficult in the moment. But see how Vibhishan responds. He is grateful for the knowledge that he's gained, and he knows that he's going to put it into practice. So when we come also, we should be like Vibhishan in that sense. That Vibhishan was surrounded by all demoniac natured people. Still, he maintained his devotion. Still, he listened to Hanuman. He surrendered to the Lord, and he gained so much, not just externally, but within his own spiritual development. His devotion grew from strength to strength, and he's known as one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. So when we come for satsang, if we practice even one thing, you think Bhagavan won't notice the effort that we take? He does. He always does. And so ultimately, success is freedom Success is independence, not being dependent on anyone or anything for our happiness. This true success is achieved from this chariot of dharma, this chariot of success. These 20 virtues, they are the real foundations of success. So even if we choose 1, 2, and we make it our psyche, we make it our blueprint from which we operate, nothing can prevent us from achieving true success. This is not me, but this is Bhagwan himself saying to Vibhishan. As we conclude, something nice I'd like to share with all of you is that today is Ekadashi, so it's such an auspicious day, and everyone has come together, and we're able to, listen to Bhagwan's words. We're able to reflect on what he's taught us. And before Swamiji left from Hong Kong, I showed him that this was the flyer and I would be doing these sessions. And so he looked at it and he says, "Oh, Vibhishan Gita." Then he looked at the dates and he said, in 1996, 30 years ago, in Australia, on these days, I did my first set of talks with the youth on Vibhishan Gita. And so we're so blessed that we get to have Swamiji be part of our sessions these past 3 days in his own special way. And so we've spoken so much about Sri Ram, we can't let Hanumanji be out of the mix. So we must conclude with our Hanuman Chalisa. I should. Also, there is a Havan on Saturday at the Happy Valley Hindu Mandir at 5:30 p.m. So please do come if you'd like to experience the Hanuman Chalisa Havan. There's also a Diwali Puja workshop next Thursday here at the ashram from 12 to 2. Registration is not required. So if you'd like to come, please feel free to come and bring a friend along. Bring someone you think would appreciate it along. And anything else? My gratitude to Puja Gurudev, Puja Guruji, Puja Swamiji, Swami Supriyanandaji, my Acharya, and all of you for coming and allowing me to reflect and deepen my own understanding of Bhagwan's words. Om Tat Sat.
Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raj Nij Mana Mukur Sudhari Barano Raghuvar Vimal Jasu Jodayak Falachari Buddhihin Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavan Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Devu Mohi Harahu Kale Savikar Jai Hanuman Gyan Gun Sagar Jai Rama Rama Jai Kapi Sati Loka Ujagar Shri Rama 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 Duta Tulita Bal Rama Shri Rama Rama Anjani Putra Pavan Sutta Rama Shri Rama Rama Mahavira Vikrama Bajrangi Sumati Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchana Bharana Viraj Subesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Hath Vajra aur Gaja Viraje Shri Rama Rama Kane Mood Janeru Saje Shri Rama Rama Shankar Suvan Kesari Nandan Shri Rama Rama Tej Pratap Mahajagvandan Shri Rama Rama अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर, प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया, सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, श्री राम रामा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा, श्री राम रामा, भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, श्री राम रामा, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे, श्री राम रामा, लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए, रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सब भाई, सहस वदन तुम रोजस गावे, श्री राम रामा, हस कर श्रीपति कंठ लगावे, श्री राम रामा, सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, श्री राम रामा, नारद सारद सहित अहीसा, श्री राम रामा, जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते, तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीना, राम मिलाए राजपद दीना, तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, श्री राम रामा, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना, श्री राम रामा, युग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु, श्री राम रामा, लियो ताहि मधुर फल जानू, श्री राम रामा, प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि, दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते, राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, श्री राम रामा, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे, श्री राम रामा, सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा, श्री राम रामा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना, श्री राम रामा, आपन तेज समारो आपे, तीनों लोक हांकते कापे, भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, श्री राम रामा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा, श्री राम रामा, संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, श्री राम रामा, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे, श्री राम रामा, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, इनके काज सकल तुम साजा, और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे, चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, श्री राम रामा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा, श्री राम रामा, साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, श्री राम रामा, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे, श्री राम रामा, अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता, राम रसायन तुमरे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा, तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, श्री राम रामा, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे, श्री राम रामा, अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाई, श्री राम रामा, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई, श्री राम रामा, और देवता चित्त न धरहि, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करहि, संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा, जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, श्री राम रामा, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई, श्री राम रामा, जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, श्री राम रामा, टूटहि बंधि महासुख होई, श्री राम रामा, जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा, तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय माडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरन श्री राम राम मंगल मूर्ति रूप श्री राम 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 लखन सीता सहित श्री राम राम हृदय बसौ सुरभूप श्री राम राम श्री राम राम श्री राम राम श्री राम राम।
सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
सुत हनुमान की
जय।
पति महादेव की
जय।
बोलो भाई सब संतन की
जय।
सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की
जय।
ओम सर्वे भवन्तु
सुखिनः
सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।